This video lesson is going to talk about how to make sure that your essay is well focused. And I'm going to give you a method that you can use with a rough draft that will help you ensure that your paper has a tight focus and that it's organized, that everything is in its place. First, let's look quickly at the essay assignment that we're working on. This is an essay that is having students write about a problem that students may encounter in college and then discuss a solution to that problem. And this is how that essay needs to be structured. It has an introductory paragraph, and then it has body paragraphs. The first body paragraph describes the problem, and then the second or the last two body paragraphs describe the solution. And then within those body paragraphs, you start each one with a topic sentence with the main idea, and then you develop and support that assertion, and then end with a summary sentence. And then the conclusion talks about kind of the broader ramifications or takeaways for other college students. So we're going to look at body paragraphs, and let's take a look at this student draft. I'm going to read it to you. Turn your work in. That's a bright idea. The topic of this piece is Brightspace, what it is, how it's used, and why it's important. Brightspace is the learning management system used at Pellissippi State. It is accessed online by students and faculty. It is a valuable tool used to relay information between professor and student. It is very important to become familiar with Brightspace as soon as possible to avoid falling behind in class. Many students suffer from stress induced by surprise quizzes or finding out in class that something was due that day. Even more troublesome is losing valuable graded work due to unfamiliarity with the program. A working knowledge of Brightspace is important because it helps avoid those stressors and ensures work is turned in accurately. So I'm going to continue reading, and I want you to notice where the writer is talking about problems or the problem and where the writer is discussing a solution or solutions. I'll use myself as an example of what not to do. One of my professors assigned taking the Brightspace tour. Even though I thought I had completed the task, I did not see it all the way through to submission. Being a non-traditional first-time freshman, I was not acclimated to computers being used in so much in an educational space. I graduated high school in 1991 and had never turned in a single paper online. I struggled with using a computer to find my course load. This cost me in several classes, as the first few assignments or quizzes to be submitted are generally pretty easy, but I got zeros. Fortunately, I very quickly realized the importance of checking in on all my classes through Brightspace every day. By logging onto Brightspace daily, students not only have a better chance of being prepared and keeping track of assignments, they also gain comfort and familiarity with the program itself and their professors' usage of it. Just being able to review the following: announcements, assignments, attendance, calendar, class projects, class list, content, course admin and organization, discussions, grades, and quizzes. Should definitely help with managing assignments. Looking at my classmates, it's easy to assume most of them have used technology in the classroom their whole lives, but a lack of diligence still costs them. After a rocky start today, a lot of my classmates actually ask me when something is due. But notice there is much more content than just content and assignments. Do not let this concern you. As you use the program, you will find that not many classes use all of these features. Some classes will use only one or two, but others will use a different two or three. Speak with your professor and ask how they prefer to utilize Brightspace. You'll find even two professors in the same course may use it differently. Again, by logging in early and often, navigation and staying ahead of course load will soon become second nature. So, we're going to talk about whether this paper is staying organized. And by organized, what I mean is the paper talking about the problem in one paragraph and the solution in second paragraphs? And how can we tell? I think sometimes it can be really difficult after you've written something to know whether or not it's organized and focused. So I'm going to show you a method that you can use. I'm going to read through the paper again, and every sentence that is discussing a problem, I'm going to highlight in yellow. And I just do that because I think of yellow lights, slow down, danger, caution. So it seemed like the right color. And then the solution sentences are going to be highlighted in green. And I think that you'll see how this can be helpful after we go through this. So I'm looking for the problem sentences. These first few sentences don't really talk about the problem or the solution. They're really just a description of Brightspace. But here we've got a solution and a problem in one sentence. So falling behind in class is a problem statement, so I'm going to highlight it in yellow. Oh, not like that though, like this. I'm going to highlight it in yellow, and this part right here is actually about the solution. So one of the problems that this paper talks about, and it's connected to a bigger problem, but one of the problems is falling behind in class, and the solution is becoming familiar with Brightspace. So now that you have an idea of how we're doing this, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to find all the rest of the problem sentences first. This sentence that talks about stress from surprise quizzes or losing valuable graded work is discussing part of the problem. So I'm going to highlight that in yellow. And then all of this right here is a description of the problem that this particular student writer had. So it's yellow too. Right here though, this writer starts shifting to the solution. So I'll go back and highlight that green in a minute. But let's find the rest of the problem sentences. This sentence right here, these two sentences, are also problem sentences. Looking at my classmates, it's easy to assume most of them have used technology, but a lack of diligence, which is a problem, still costs them. So those are the problem sentences, and these are the solution sentences. A working knowledge of Brightspace is important. And then all of these sentences talk about using Brightspace to solve that problem. This sentence right here is kind of after the problem, so really we're not going to highlight it. And this is more information about Brightspace and how to use it. So it may be part of the solution. So we're going to highlight that green. Now, by doing those highlights, it becomes evident that although this paper has paragraphs, the paragraphs are not focused in the way that the assignment calls for. That first body paragraph right here goes back and forth between discussing the problem and the solution. And then the second body paragraph is all about the solution. But what are we going to do with these other solution sentences? Well, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up a new document. Actually, I'm just going to work with this one. And I'm going to move this information around so that I can work with it differently and see how it might go together. So I'm keeping the problem sections at the top part of the paper because the first body paragraph needs to be about the problem. So I'm going to move one of those solution statements down here. I'm going to take this problem sentence up here in the problem section. And I'm going to take this solution sentence right here and move it into the solution section. So I can see right away that I've got kind of a chunk, 3 chunks of information here. I've got general information about students and specific problems that happen when they are struggling or aren't familiar with Brightspace. And then we've got this story, the anecdote that the student wrote about his own experience, and then another general statement about all students. And then we've got a lot of sentences about solving that problem. Now, when you do this kind of exercise, what it does is it helps you see where your gaps are, where you might need to offer a little bit more development, and it helps you definitely identify the sections of your paper where you might be losing focus and losing the overall organization. So using that method can be a really good strategy for keeping your paper organized, which you definitely want to do in college level writing.